Serious Men, which female characters did you look up to as a kid? Toph from Avatar: The Last Airbender. She's just such a big inspiration. She's strong, fearless, does not care about other people's opinion and just does what she likes. She eventually learns the importance and wealth of friend and family as well as what it means to let others in on your thoughts and emotions while still keeping her more self-centered identity and mentality, which is completely fine and even a good thing in my opinion. But most importantly, no one can tell Toph that she can't do something once she has set her mind on something she wants. Rydia, the summoner from Final Fantasy IV-2, as I knew it as a kid, standing up to her fears and sad memories to learn fire spells even after losing her family to them, and then later rescuing the whole team in their darkest hour, suddenly having grown up into a badass? Even becoming able to summon Bahamut, which wasn't really much of a story beat, but it set the imagination off as a kid anyway, since he was the most powerful summon who utilizes fire breath, which would have once terrified her to imagine. Princess Zelda, in Ocarina of Time. Spoilers for a 25-year-old game, I guess? Figuring out that Sheik, this mysterious, badass character who has been helping you in the broken future of Hyrule, is actually Princess Zelda in disguise was mind-blowing to me. That she watched her kingdom fall to evil after fleeing to exile as a child, and rather than quietly accept it, learn the ways of the Sheikah from Impa in order to ensure that the hero succeeds in his quest was just so damn cool. I can't remember what her name was, but the soldier girl and Wreck-It Ralph. Kim Possible. The Totally Spies trio. OG Velma, like somebody else said. Johnny Test Sisters. Mrs. Incredible. iCarly, Sam, Victorious, Jessie, Phoebe Thunderman, etc. Most of the Nick Disney live-action girls from 2009, 2013. If I saw Hercules before this year aged 19, you can add Megara to that list. Some of them I actually looked up to, some of them influenced my type in women, and others were both. Xena Warrior Princess. Honorable, strong, kind, caring. Like all well-written characters, that she was a woman was mostly irrelevant to the core of her character. This is my only issue with writing stories. I don't care if it's from a female perspective, I don't care if it's a female lead, but for fuck's sake, at least write them well. No point in pushing female representation and then pushing absolute dog vomit writing. I remember liking Lieutenant Terry Leaf from Spider-Man TOS, because she was a cool policewoman and she actually used logic instead of immediately trying to arrest Spider-Man Peter. Also Sora in Digimon Adventure 01. I liked how supportive she always was to her friends, even when facing some personal problems and stuff. I don't know if Totally Spies count, I just like to watch them always kick the criminals' butts. Motoko Kusanagi from Ghost in the Shell. That scene where she's wearing only the leotard gave me the very first erection of my life, and a lifelong legs fetish. Also loved how she treated her body as a tool cyberpunk setting rather than something to be treasured. Her stubbornness, her willingness to do everything to reach the objective, being the perfect war machine yet questioning what being human means. Honestly, none. Back in our days, which isn't a lot back since I'm 17, things we saw as for kid stuff barely even had a female main side character, let alone someone charismatic enough to look up to. This gets worse when considering I have been raised in a third world country. The first female character I actually praised was Tsunade from Naruto, which I saw maybe 3 or 4 years ago. Note I grew up in the 1980s where action movies with big bulky guys were the norm. And cartoons were just extended commercials for toys. My favorite female protagonists were Ripley from Aliens, and that wasn't because of her being a her, she was the smart one, tough one and the fighter. Also Anne Lewis from the RoboCop movies. As brave as RoboCop, but nowhere near as indestructible. Murphy Brown, she was an independent, strong-willed professional woman that reminded me a lot of my mother. I will subconsciously wish my mom would have that kind of backbone during some really tough times. It turns out she didn't have a backbone. My mom is really tough. I'm very proud of her for getting out from under those life situations that seem so enormous and impossible. I watched Mulan in theaters like 4x as a kid, and probably far more once it was on VHS. At the time, I really admired that she was a maverick and didn't want to just go along with what was expected of her, and admired her tenacity and determination to do the right thing even when she was given up on by her comrades. I also enjoyed the music and Eddie Murphy as Mushu OFC, the female mechanic from the American show where the brothers have a garage. Kim Possible. Letty from the early Fast and Furious movies, she was also fantastic in the D&D movie from 2023. Cameron from *Halt and Catch Fire*. Really any badass girl who's good with tools, driving, and kicking butt. Extra points if she is tech savvy or a hacker programmer. Sakura from Street Fighter Alpha 2. I just thought it was so cool that there was a kid in the SF universe and that she was talented enough to be acknowledged by Ryu. The fact that she was a girl didn't really factor into it honestly, it was more that there was someone closer to my age. I was still younger than her when Alpha 2 came out making waves. Princess Cimarine from Dealing with Dragons was smart, capable, no nonsense, and chose to take control of her own destiny, even if it cut against the grain. Also look at Tiffany Aching from the We Free Men, Lyriel from the Abhausen Chronicles, and Sammy Keys as good role models for intelligent characters that pave their own identities. I grew up with Star Wars: The Clone Wars, so Ahsoka Tano was and still is like my favorite female character in the series. I liked that she was actually really competent, and I'm glad that in recent media as well she's been really cool, even though I don't like the direction of Star Wars as a whole. Gwen Tennyson from Ben 10. Sure, she can have outbursts at times, but she's smart, mature, kind, and willing to protect and fight alongside her cousin. She doesn't even try to overshadow Ben at all and acts as her own hero along with having situations of her own to deal with personally. Jennifer Walters, Black Canary, Kitty now Kate Pryde, Jubilee, X-23 now Wolverine Laura Kinney, Mary Jane, Cassandra Cain, Toph, April O'Neil, Storm, Hope Summers, Lucy from Fairy Tail, the sister from Spiderwick Chronicles, Buffy, and the two main female characters from Bring It On. Miria Claymore. Claymore is kinda Beowulf with an all-female main cast. It's a pretty mess up setting with Miria standing apart as a character who is powerful enough and has her heart and brain both screwed incorrectly. That is a surprisingly rare combination. Katara from Avatar. I'm a kind person and older sibling, and seeing her sometimes controlling behavior and her acknowledging it helped me become a better sibling. She also helped me learn more about patience, really helped me value it and try to achieve it. Lady Eboshi was and still is the most metal badass to ever badass. That bitch one-shotted a god, got her arm bitten off by a second god she had already killed, and still had the zest to lead her people to victory, reconciliation, and regrowth. She's GOAT. I read comics in Wasp, She-Hulk, and Scarlet, which were always three faves. I don't much like the MCU Wasp though. I also liked What's-Her-Names from Jurassic Park. Laura Dern. The granddaughter was cool too because she knew computers and was pretty cute. In fiction, Nancy Drew and Meg from A Wrinkle in Time. On television, that girl from the animated series and the '60s show. In comic books, Wonder Woman, She-Hulk, Silver Sable, Kitty Pryde X-Men, and Magic and Mirage of the New Mutants. Chris Cagney and Mary Beth Lacey. Mrs. Amanda King. Laverne DeFazio. Ellen Ripley. Principal Rosalie Mullins from School of Rock. Her story arc really makes the movie. Trying to find the balance between serious and dignified and still true to herself. Great performance, super relatable, just an awesome character. Arwen has always stuck with me since I saw Fellowship of the Ring at like age 7 or 8. Breathtakingly beautiful of course, but was also a badass who outrode and then fucked up the Nazgul while carrying a dying Frodo on her back. Gretchen from Children of the Dog Star was probably the first female character I remember thinking was really smart when I was about 5 years old. I've only recently rediscovered this show, having forgotten what it was called. Sarah Connor Terminator. Celine Kate Beckinsale in Underworld. Sigourney Weaver as Ripley in Alien. Mila Jovovich as Alice in Resident Evil. This was probably number 1 for me. Michelle Rodriguez in various roles. Got to watch it later as a teen, but Bleach had many great female characters. Yoruichi was my favorite, super smart, humorous and awesome fighting skills. Wish the series had given us more info about her past. And Mei from the Raimi trilogy. She suffers so much but never lets it make her a worse person and will absolutely hit a cyborg with her umbrella if it comes to that. Do no harm. Take no shit in human form. Princess Leia is one of the few people not intimidated by Chewbacca. Get this big walking carpet out of my way. She can also handle a blaster to help during her own rescue, and do commando work on Endor. Oh! I was convinced they were asking which woman people looked up online when they were a kid, and I thought, wait. I didn't have internet as a kid. As an older teenager maybe. Frequently. As a really little kid? Wonder Woman. The Linda Hamilton series was on TV then, and I was obsessed with superheroes. The theme song was a real earworm, even then. Ellen Ripley, Sarah Connor, Dana Scully, Clarice Starling, Roseanne, every Golden Girl for different reasons but particularly Dorothy, Lydia Deetz and or Veronica Sawyer, Frances Houseman, etc. Even as a kid I didn't watch that much fiction except for Star Trek fans, so people like Uhura, Kira, etc. In the non-sci-fi world, I probably internalized Thelma Harper, though to be fair, Captain Carter in Stargate SG-1, she's smart, beautiful, cool under pressure, loyal to her friends and an overall badass. When the Asgard are in trouble they ask her for advice. Detective Mazza from Gargoyles. She filled a lot of the same narrative spots as April from TMNT, but with added coolness. Oh, and Rachel from Animorphs. God damn! What a badass! Dr. Samantha Carter. Smart, competent, fearless, and stood her ground in a field of men. I'm still in love with her. Dr. Dana Scully, for much the same as Sam Carter. Cassie from Animorphs. Supportive to her team, intense ethical inquiries, willingness to fight when necessary but willing to interrogate her own actions and beliefs. My mom. She was and still is the best biological mom I ever had in my entire life. I'm assuming character just means anyone you can look up to, right? Raven and Starfire were always super badass to me as a child. Same goes for the Powerpuff Girls. Number 5 from Codename Kids Next Door was very cool as well. She-Ra. Scarlet from G.I. Joe. Jodie from Today's Special. I'm from Ontario, Canada. Canadians may remember Today's Special. April O'Neil. Yeah, M from the 80s. Lieutenant Helen Ripley was a competent problem solver who stuck to her principles, trusted her instincts, and made the safety of everyone around her her priority.